On. All right. Welcome. It's August 2nd, 2023. And here we are for another outreach trainer meeting. And I'm glad to have you all here with us. Okay. So as usual, we'll post the slides on our website afterwards so that you can click on the links that are in there and, remind yourselves of things that we're going to go through today. And I'm going to see Angelique or Yvonne, if either of you can find a way to mute everybody or put everyone on mute, at least initially, and then we can get ourselves going clearly. But certainly come off mute or raise your hand and interrupt me if you've got questions. All right. So without further ado, let's see where we're at today. Just a welcome again. I always put this on here. I always feel kind of silly doing so. I just got my notice and congratulations from our group. I had forgotten. You kind of lose track after time, but it's my 18th anniversary at Georgia Tech. So that's kind of exciting this month. Speaking of time flying, right? And so I feel like I've, been here a long time and I know everybody, but the reality is I probably have got a whole bunch of maybe some of our construction outreach trainers who are new, in the past year, maybe on the, taking the 500, who I haven't had an opportunity to meet. A lot of you old time outreach construction trainers, I used to get to come into the 502 and be with you for several hours. But I don't have that luxury, it seems like these days. And I know that Sean has been doing a really good job for Philip standing in. So if you haven't had a chance to meet me, I'm Hillary Warren, director of our Ed Center. But also I run the 501. So I've had a lot of folks who are general industry outreach trainers come through my class, and that's my contact info. If I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, if you ever need to get a hold of me, please don't hesitate to reach out. And this is our awesome crew here in the background. Most of you know Angelique and Yvonne, our outreach coordinator, and Dana Atkinson. A lot of you, if you're general industry folks, you had him run your 511 class. And Shonda Madison is our newest addition. She's not all that new anymore. She joined us in December, but also helps coordinate a lot of our work and other elements. So just so that you get to know who we all are. And again, a lot of stuff happening on this slide, but just a reminder to you that here's all of our contact info. And what I want to just do is pause and encourage you to initially try to reach out via email. And the reason I'm asking you to do that is because we don't have lines and someone that is staffing a phone 24/7, and we will get ourselves into a big phone tag game most of the time of, okay, I got your voicemail, so I will call you back, and then I get your voicemail. Or more frequently, this voicemail box is full and can't accept any new messages, right? And so then I can't return your message, or Yvonne can't return your message. So what I would suggest is to reach out via email first. You can either email us directly or to this one here, this training card requests email address, and just give us a good time and a callback number for you. Then we can hopefully reduce that amount of back and forth. Okay. I just want to put that out there, that if you can tell us when to call you back and a good number to do so, then we'll be more successful at getting a hold of you. All right. So our agenda for today is I want to talk a little bit about our outreach trainer coaching series program that we're launching. And it's being launched as a result of a lot of feedback that we solicited from our outreach trainers last fall. We started that process. And so in our last outreach webinar, I went through the results of the survey that we administered to outreach trainers and got your feedback on some things. And that really helped us know better how to help you. And so I want to introduce this new coaching series that we're rolling out, and we'll be rolling out sort of piece by piece. And the first thing we're going to talk about in this coaching series is record keeping, and ways that we can help you manage all of the records that happen to come along with being an outreach trainer. Some process reminders, some upcoming events and resources for you, and then question, answer, feedback time. As I did last time, I kept like there's like 20, maybe not that many, but about that many slides at the back of this. I'm not going to go through them, but if it's got extra resources and where to get info about some of the new fall campaigns or industrial hygiene related health topics, all of that is going to be in the PowerPoint that you can download at the end from the website if you need additional resources. Okay. So the first thing about this coaching series, I wanted to just remind us of who are our trainers. And that was one of the questions we asked last fall in the survey we started administering was, how often are you outreach trainers actually conducting classes? And 70% of you said, I actually only do 1 to 5 per year. All right, out of the number of people that responded, not obviously all 2,000 of our outreach trainers responded, but for the folks that did respond, this was sort of where we landed, was most people aren't really doing all that much outreach training per year. Okay. And that then you also told us that you're primarily training people internal to your company. So when you conduct a 10 or 30 hour, most of you are training in-house, right? Folks that you're with all the time. A lot of people are sort of doing both internal and external. But only a small handful, really, it seems like are truly sort of training consultants and doing only external work. I bring these 2 points up for you because I think it helps explain some of the things that we have seen as your ATO, right, as your authorizing training organization, that when there's a low frequency of the number of classes, outreach classes you run, and that most of the training that's being done is internal to your company. And so it's kind of easy to be in the mindset of, well, this is how we do it, at my company, at Acme. So I'm used to keeping the Acme records the Acme way, rather than I need to keep my records as I do for outreach classes, okay, which are different. And the fact that, look, I run the 501. I know exactly how much time we spend on all of the rules and the elements of what it is to be an outreach trainer in that class. And I'll tell you, it's not a whole lot, right? Because a lot of the time that we spend in the 500 and the 501 is about training techniques, right? It's helping prepare you to be a trainer. It's about covering some of the content that you would deliver in a 10 or 30 hour and giving you some input on how would we frame this content so it makes sense for a 10 or 30 hour. It's giving you all opportunities to present in the 10 and 30 hour, right? So we don't spend an entire week really going into great detail or with repetition on all of the rules of being an outreach trainer. I think if you combine all 3 of those elements together, what we end up with is what we see on the receiving end of your course reports and cards that we issue, and you experience as you struggle to put together agendas that have all the right stuff and the documents have all of the right things, right? It's difficult, okay? And so we recognize that and wanted to do something about it, okay? Because why that matters to you, right? And it can feel frustrating on our end, despite the fact that a lot of you don't run a whole lot of classes every year, we still have almost 2,000 of you as outreach trainers. And last year alone, right, you conducted about 1,500 classes and reported those to us. With, we're moving towards 20,000 student cards that got issued, right? All of that is a whole lot of work that Yvonne has to do, our outreach coordinator, right, on reviewing those course reports as they come in and making sure that all the names are spelled correctly and communicating with all of you. Never mind, also approving applications or not for new outreach trainers, right? There's a lot of paperwork that comes across our way too. And when things are not in order, it delays everything, right? Delays it for you, delays it for us. We have obligations to OSHA. You have obligations to us. So help us help you. Okay. And one of the ways that we wanted to try to do that was, again, by soliciting your input last year through this survey, where we had a bunch of you respond to sort of let us know what's going well as an outreach trainer and where could you use some support. And so one of the things that rose right to the top was help with agenda planning. And another was records retention and forms. And can we get some templates for that kind of stuff? Or can we get some guides on how to do it? And how do we better develop our curriculum or build in activities? And we took all of that feedback from you, and we're working on that. So the very first thing that we're rolling out from this coaching series is a document that focuses specifically on record keeping and taking what's in that manual that no one reads anyways, okay, and trying to put it into a sort of more checklist format, right, with some helpful tips and tricks from outreach trainers just like yourselves. All right. So this document will be, it's done, and it's a PDF, and it'll be put on our website. I'm hoping actually even by the end of today, it's done. We were trying to get it up there before, but our webmaster is, she's been out. So just to give you, this is what's going to look like. Okay. So just some things to remember, some things that you want to, that we get asked frequently, like, what are our qualifications for an assistant outreach trainer or an SME that I might have in, right? Or a helpful hint. The next one that should come out will be the guidance on how to develop activities as an outreach trainer, and where are some resources for that, and what's the difference between this type of hands-on activity and this type of hands-on activity. So I'm really excited to roll these out and debut them for you. They're going to be free of charge. It's just an extra support that we have invested in, that we want to give to our outreach trainers. So you'll be able to download that hopefully by the end of this week. So keeping in that vein, right? Okay, our first job aid that we're rolling out to you is around record keeping. We wanted to highlight some of the things that we see you struggle with when it comes to record keeping. Okay, so I'm going to start with the portal. All right, everyone's favorite subject, the portal. What gets me blocked when I go to put in a course report. Anyone ever had that? Anyone ever gotten blocked when they're trying to put something in the portal? You're lying if you're not putting your hand up, because I've gotten myself blocked. Okay. All right. So I said, Yvonne, tell me, what is getting people blocked? All right. Keying errors, y'all. This is just like simple stuff, right? Like just sort of like fat fingering something. And I transpose my numbers all the time. So putting just something in backwards, right? And I meant to be this, and I just put it in as, 1-5 instead of 5-1 or whatever. That's it. Just a keying error, right? Something simple. Using that back key on the browser, right? We tell you this over and over again, but we still do it because it's habit, because it's just muscle memory. We use the back key so frequently on all the things in our life in a browser, but in the portal application, it does not like the back key. So just don't use it. Okay. Look for the thing that says go back a step, or wait till you get to that portion on the portal where you're entering your info. And it's like, do you want to double check and edit? Do you want to change the information that you put in? The portal was built so that you could make edits, before you're finally like telling it, yes, we're going to go. So just that's something we see. So it's just something we have to break the habit of in the portal. Another one is trying to put your course report in by memory instead of actually having your document, specifically your agenda right there at hand. Where you can see your times and know you're matching up your topics and all of that. So the by memory thing, I would just say, don't try to have your actual agenda with you when you're going through putting it in. That's the kind of stuff that gets people blocked. Specifically for my construction outreach trainers, There's a couple items that we wanted to call out just for you, special, okay? One is that when you go to put your focus 4 information in, some of you will exceed the required amount of time for focus 4 in a particular area, and that's great. We're happy to have you do more on a particular topic, right? But if you exceed what's expected in the focus 4 time slot there in the portal, you need to account for that time as optional. Put it in the optional field for your topic. Don't try to stuff it in up in the focus 4 area, because it's only expecting what's required for focus 4 in that upper portion. Okay. The other thing that I think Yvonne said she's seen sort of with folks, especially those construction trainers who've been with us for a long time, you know, the requirements, they do change occasionally. And the last time they were updated, fall protection moved from being 1 hour and 15 minutes, right? 1.25 hours to 1.5 hours. And so just make sure that you know you're covering that amount of time when you're doing fall protection. It's not 1 hour and 15 minutes anymore. It's at least 1.5 hours. Okay. And then the third one, and then I'll pause so we can answer questions, is overlapping topics on your agenda. So when we are reviewing your written agenda, part of what we're seeing is that you will just say, okay, for this hour to this hour, I did focus 4. For this hour to this hour, I did focus 4. And then in this half hour, I did focus 4. You have to specifically state with each time block what focus 4 topic you actually are talking about, right? Was it fall protection? Was it struck by? Was it, okay? So break it out. Don't just have everything be grouped together on your agenda. Okay, I'm going to pause here and ask if there's any questions, or ask Yvonne anything else we want to add in here on this. I know I saw a hand raised, and then it got put down. So if I didn't answer your question yet and you want to ask it now, please do. All right. Hearing none, we'll keep on going. So more record keeping. What else do we see? Okay, this is where I need an audience participation, y'all. Okay. So let's look at sign-in sheets. Let's look at this sign-in sheet together. All right. Someone put it in the chat or come off mute and tell me what is wrong with the sign-in sheet example I have here.
I don't see any addresses.
Correct. What else we missing? Keith says
doesn't
not
say
enough information. Yep. What else?
It doesn't say construction or general industry.
Correct. Okay. So we need to know what kind of 10-hour. Is it construction? Is it general industry? Excellent. What else?
The name of the instructor with their signature.
Great. I see. Okay. Matt put it in and someone else just, Laurel, was that you? Yes.
Yep.
The name of the instructor and their signature. Okay. Sign-in sheets have to be signed by the instructor of record. Alicia doesn't have the address of the training. Good. Yep. I think there might be one more thing.
People's names.
Okay. So you're right. I mean, it's blank right now. And in some instances, if you know who your attendees are going to be, you could already pre-fill that in, right? You could print that in or type it in and that would be fine. And then they would just sign it, right? Let's see. Peter Jerry says time of classes.
Time of class.
Okay. So if I'm saying that this 10-hour is from July 10th through 14th, and this is my sign-in sheet, what day is this? How many sign-in sheets do I need to have?
One for each day.
Correct. Thank you. One for each day. Okay. So you can put your whole date range up there. That's fine. But somewhere else on here, I need you to tell me what day of the class it is for you. All right, so did we get them all? Type of class? Yes, we heard that. Actual date, location, address, and then the instructor name and signature. Well done. Okay. What is the problem with this one?
Other than not being able to read it.
Okay.
T-Rex, I spy.
Well, Tuesday, they just put, like he said, they just put the X there. And
Wow. Yeah, what's wrong with that, Victor?
well, anybody could have done that. So you need to be authentic with it.
Okay. Yeah, I see it in the chat too.
Mhm.
Full names. Okay. So in this one, there's names, but there's only
Mhm.
first initial. So that's not a
Yes.
full name. Okay. Then, yep, they've got a signature. Sweet. But now it's given me a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and
Mhm.
I'm putting initials here, and I'm putting an X mark here, and I'm putting a check here. Is any of that allowed?
No, I want to,
No,
I
no.
want,
No.
I want to add, when it's time to get those cards, if the name is misspelled, that costs money to go back in and have to get another card.
Mhm.
Correct,
does.
right? Correct. So we've got some problems here, and these are what we see when we do a records audit. Sometimes these are the sign-in sheets that we are receiving back from y'all. So I want to make sure we're real clear that there are some things that are missing on here, right? So again, this one didn't have type of class. It didn't have a separate sheet for each day. There's still no instructor signature. There's not like a real address, right? We just had the company name. And you can't use initials. Okay. So it's going to be a signature next to their full name each day. Awesome. What's wrong with this one?
Hey, Hillary, I got a question. Can I ask
Yeah.
a question?
Yeah.
Would you need a sign out sheet at the end of the day to show that the student stayed all day?
I would love to hear from our groups. What do y'all think? Yay or nay? Sign in one time, sign in multiple times, pros, cons.
I think the sign-in sheet for every session is great. I'm doing some teaching at the prisons, and it's a zoo, and I mean, I need to know, that the same person was here today, was there yesterday, and then I have a separate sheet for just a general roll with addresses on it, and then separate sign-in sheet every day.
Yeah, so you have to have a separate sign-in sheet every day. So, right, you want to make sure that they're attending each day. Do the sign in, say they show up at 8 a.m. in the morning and they're there, and then they go to lunch, and then they come back and you have an afternoon portion, having them sign in again, right? Or having a sign out. It's not a bad idea, especially when it's a large class, y'all. And if it's just you, okay, if it's just you running that class and it's big and you don't either know them well, right? You don't really know who those people are. You're there to do the training, and you don't recognize their faces necessarily. Or you are at your facility and you're training people that but they're constantly having to be running out to do maintenance on something on the line, right? Were they actually there? Did they come back after lunch? Have they met the requirement of time? So Keith says it's not required in the chat, right? It's not required to have a sign out. It is only required that you have a sign-in sheet documenting attendance, but you are the trainer, and we trust you to know best for your groups who you're training, right? Well, we're going to look at the code of ethics, and the statement of compliance here in a few minutes. It's your signature on there that says, I am basically certifying that the results I'm giving you about the people that attended my class, they're true and accurate. And again, if you don't have a real good way to track that for yourself, and you really are relying on only a sign in one time, then maybe that is leaving you open. So I want to just sort of pause there. I see a bunch of hands and some questions. So yeah, go ahead. Yvonne.
Hillary, I just wanted to ask Joe, when you teach the prison classes, are you providing your contact information to the inmates to contact you should they lose their cards or need a replacement cards? How do you address that?
I'm gonna say yes/no, meaning I give it to my contact person.
The contact person at the prison?
Yeah, no, yeah,
Got
the
it.
contact person at the prison, because they use the prison as one main address.
Okay.
It's very, very problematic for the prisoners to be able to get your contact information, because they'll end up Googling you, calling you, and off of your work email address. It can get very, very
Yeah,
messy.
yeah.
So my contact person is who I rely on.
And at that time, do you instruct the class attendees, should they have issues with their cards, to go back to the prison contact person? Because,
Yes,
and the
yes,
reason
you
I'm
know, they can-
asking that question is we get a lot of calls from former inmates informing that they lost their cards. They don't know how to reach the trainer and what do they need to do. So I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, I kind of drill the point home from day one and every day. I mean, I'm drilling the questions in. Hey, so what do you do if you lose a card? Who do you contact? And they always know the prison is never going to go anywhere, right? So they can get in touch with them, and that contact person can contact me, and we go from there. If I can just add one other thing, I constantly go over the respelling. Even though the prison gives me a list, they can make mistakes too. And again, it is costly. And you initially are the one that has to bear the brunt of that cost, you know, to get that card for that person. So I always ask them, hey, I call the roll, you know, more than once throughout that day. Hey, and then I'll spell that name out so they can verify it. I found them on the sign-in sheets. One day they might say B Strange, the next day they'll say Barbara Strange. And you know, I'm looking at it, but when I get back at my desk, I'm going, I can't call them now. And I'm going, which one is it? Which one is it? So
Yes,
just be
that's
very,
great.
very thorough, check, recheck, and check again.
Thank you.
Got it.
You're
Thank you. Yeah, that's good feedback. I mean, I know if you've been in that position, I have, and you're going to put your course report in and you're looking at your roster of names and you're like, oh no, I can't read that handwriting, or they signed it one way and then didn't sign it the same way the next time with, you know, how they referred to their name. So communicating all of that up front at the start of your classes, when you're doing your paperwork and your record keeping of here's how this process is going to work, how you're going to get your card, etc. That is an important step that I would encourage you to do. So when we're looking at this one, one of you put into the chat that the issue with this was that they are like typed in electronic signatures, not real signatures, right? And if this was an in-person class, right, and people were sitting around a table and that's how you told me that class was going to take place, and this is the sign-in sheet I will get back from you, this is not adequate, right? Who's supposed to sign it? The student is supposed to sign it, right? You're not going in and typing their name in with something that looks like a signature, okay? If you are approved by us to run an online class, okay, so that would be you have asked for an exception to do a Zoom class or a Teams class, then that attendance roster might look different. All right. And that's a one-off. That's something that you need to communicate with me about. So again, I'm just going to throw that out there to make sure everyone remembers we're all on the same page. You do not currently get to just run a Zoom or a Teams class for a 10 or 30 hour on your own. You have to ask for approval from your ATO in order to do that. And there's a whole set of documentation that we will go through before that is an approved thing for you to do. In that instance, maybe you would have an electronic signature, because part of the way you verify attendance is both with your Zoom report, and then you send that out through DocuSign, and each of your attendees puts their own electronic signature on it as well. That might be an instance where an electronic signature would be okay, but otherwise the expectation is that your students are signing their name, okay, for all of your in-person classes. Good. So, great discussion on sign-in sheets, and what's required by OSHA, right, which is one for every day with all the parameters we discussed, as well as what could be a best practice for you, you know, and like you said, Keith, if the situation deems it, then you could do a sign in and a sign out. Yeah. I know, Robert, I think I saw your hand. Did we answer your question, or do you want, or did we get it?
Heidi, I just wanted to say, when you were in our training class, if there was no roster, there was no class. And you made it very clear. So over documentation is good. It's not necessary, but you made it very clear. If you have a breakout and you come back in, you get signatures twice. So
Yeah.
I'm surprised to see these examples up, because I would never, ever imagine somebody from Georgia Tech ever turning something like this in. This is just nuts.
I would say, again, the reason we're talking about it and I'm giving these examples is because we've got a lot of trainers who train internally, right? They're running internal 10 and 30 hours for, you know, folks at their companies. And you get used to doing trainings, right? Maybe they also train on HASCOM, right? And your EAP plan. And so there's maybe a different process for documentation based on company rules than there are with some of the outreach training rules. So I think it's always good to have a refresher on what it is that we're really actually looking for. So good, you guys identified that issue too. Another thing we have seen, so I want to make sure that everyone's real clear on what is the difference between these two documents. Okay, if we are looking at this one over here on the left-hand side, what is this document called and where does it come from? Crickets.
That's on our portal.
It's the portal. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's our
Thank
portal.
you. Okay, so this is the portal report, and you know it's the portal because it's got the red and blue little overlapping circles, and that's what the portal looks like now. So when you put your stuff into the portal, and even when you get your cards, typically there's a portal report that's just sort of the basic summary of where you did it and how many students and student names and all that kind of stuff. Versus, friends, what is this one over here on the right? If you've got your glasses on, you can see it because it's real small up here at the top.
That the training report.
Outreach Training Program Report.
Mhm.
That infamous OTPR. I know in my 501s, we harp on this a lot, okay? The OTPR is the official record of your class, okay? I think this is official. This is the official one. And you know it's official because it's got the Office of Management and Budget, you know, and it's got the DOL seal and it's got OSHA, and this is like the official one. Some of you folks, if you've been a trainer for us for a long time, you remember filling this document out by hand.
Mhm.
Okay, and scanning it. It used to be you would have to make this document and fill it out, you know, by hand or on your typewriter, right? Each time you did a class. Now, this OTPR report is generated in the portal, but it's not the same thing as a portal report. Okay, so if you have been in the portal and you've done your course report, at the end, okay, you're going to come to a screen that kind of looks like this. And across the top are these 3 blue buttons. The portal report is this one over here, and you can push that button and get this PDF. This button that says OSHA format PDF is your OTPR report. If you are asked for a records audit, okay, and we say, send us your agenda and your sign-in sheets and your, you know, student addresses and your OTPR, what we're looking for you to send back to us is that OTPR, this document right here. And the only way you can get that document, friends, is if you click that middle button to say, download my OTPR PDF. Okay, so this is your official record. This is what OSHA, and the reason we have to ask it from you is because OSHA asks it from us, right? It's on the list of things that we are supposed to include in our records audit. Does the trainer have their OTPR report? So you have to click this middle button in order to extract that out and save it with your course records. Okay. I know, Matt, I would love to change the name of the button to say OTPR report. We can put that request in. It's not our portal. We don't manage it, but I can ask. Just know that if it says OSHA, that's the official one. Okay.
So we can,
So you will download the OTPR report, and then that stays with the rest of your files for your class. So what I would do is, download the OTPR. It's now a PDF. I PDF all my other stuff, my sign-in sheets, my student addresses, my cards, all that other kind of stuff, and make it be one big package. And then you can upload that whole record as your course record for that class, and then keep your other copy somewhere else, right? That would be my suggestion. All right, next record reminder is, it's 5 years, right? 5 years of your records can be audited at any time. So I want to bring this up because, like this picture implies, we got some people who are moving on in the world, right? They are leaving their job for greener pastures. Maybe they didn't get paid by their client. Maybe they're retiring, right? And are like, that was a great career and I am done. If you retire, if you leave your job, if you aren't paid by the client for whom you did the training, it doesn't matter that any of those things happened. You are still responsible for 5 years post that class for your records and your student card replacement. Okay, so most of you know, yeah, okay, I'm supposed to hold on to my records for 5 years. You also are obligated, right, to replace a student card if they contact you and say, I lost my card, or it was stolen, or it was destroyed, or whatever. You can replace that card one time in a 5-year period. So if you decide to retire and someone contacts you 2 years into your retirement and says, hey, I was in your last 10-hour class before you retired, right? You were like rubbing the sunscreen on like at the end of class and you were ready to be gone. I lost my card. And you're like, I'm retired. Like, it doesn't matter. You need to have a way to replace that person's card. Okay. So I want to just make sure that before we sail off into the sunset and decide we're not training anymore, that we have communicated a way for our students to get a hold of us and get a replacement if they need to, or to, get it in the first place. And that's the one where when people don't get paid, right? If you have a client who didn't read the terms of your contract or whatever it was, and they decided to hold up your money, that doesn't matter when it comes to your outreach cards, friends, because how many days do you have post-class to get your course report in? 30? Does this ring a bell?
30 days.
We've got 30 days to get those cards to you, and then you've got 30 more days to get those cards out to the student. So if your client doesn't pay you and the 100th day comes and a student reaches out to us or to OSHA, and they will, and say, I attended a 10-hour class and I didn't get my card, and that student contacts us and we're like, okay, well, let's look. Well, there's no course report. Well, okay, we'll contact your trainer for you. And we contact the trainer and the trainer says, well, my client never paid me. Does that matter? Nope. Because they were in your class, they were your students, and it's your obligation to get them that card because they did their work. They did their job. They met their obligation, right? We see this all the time with folks who are with staffing providers, you know, and they've got someone who attended the class and then is in the wind. I want to just, again, you know, Gordy put it in here earlier, sort of with regards to a command presence. You are the one that sets the stage for your client and your class, right? So if it needs to be a contract, it's a contract. If it needs to be an explanation document that says, this is how this works, y'all, please understand that, you know, I have every right to not issue this card if the person doesn't meet their, you know, our obligation or whatever it may be. You are the one that knows the rules. You are the one that has to administer them. Okay. We also have a lot of folks who are, you know, they've got extra hands at their office and they give, you know, someone their credentials to log into the portal to do the report. That's fine. But if there's an audit, that audit again is of you, the trainer, not of your support staff. Okay. You're the one is of name of record. So make sure that your classes, your clients know how to, you know, get a hold of you. And like to Yvonne's point earlier, that was real important.
Hillary,
Especially.
can I just say one thing also?
Yeah, go ahead.
When you get the cards, to make copies of the cards, the front and back, because I've
Beautiful.
had clients before that have said to me, well, I want the cards because I'm paying you. And I'm like, no, the cards have to go directly to the student. So I make sure that my clients get a copy of everyone's cards that were in that training class. So at least they have it. They can see that the people do have a card, because they're not supposed to get that card. Because I've also had issues in the past that people have contacted me saying, I left my job and my past employer took my card away from me and I need a new one.
Right. And again, thanks, Laurel. It's like establishing, here's how this is going to work up front, right? And trying to make sure that that's conveyed throughout your class to your students, that, you know, they understand what's owed to them, you know, that this is their card, just like you want to communicate with you know, whoever is setting up the class. So you bring up a great point. You're segueing me directly into the next thing, which we've seen in our record keeping audits, is one of the elements we will always ask for is provide the copies of your cards. Okay. The new portal very handily will make copies of the front side of your cards, your student cards. It does not provide copies of the back. Okay. So when we do a record keeping audit and we get people and they send us just the front side of whatever was here in the portal, see, like right here, this is what it will always look like. It just happens automatically. You don't have to do anything. When it says student card copies, friends, it is only talking about the front side. So you have to make a copy of the back as well in order to meet the full requirement number 5 that's in the requirements and procedures document. Okay.
Hey, Hillary,
The final
got a question.
thing, oh yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, so since they already have the ability to make copies of the front in the system, is there any plan in the future to possibly just do the backs? I mean, maybe make it so much easier since they have the technology to make copies of the front and back. And so, I mean, that'd be so much easier on us.
I know it would, but Yvonne is shaking. You see Yvonne up in my corner. She's shaking her head no, because that's something that's been asked. And that's going to be an OSHA, like across the board type of, that's not just Georgia Tech and the portal we're using. This is that's a no, because they are going to want that to remain under the control of the trainer.
Gotcha.
Does that make
Thank you.
sense?
Yeah.
Because it's got a QR code on it that's specific to that card, right? And so for fraud reduction purposes, let me just put it that way, that's where it's only going to remain in the hands of the trainer, not an outside entity. Does that make sense, Carrie?
Kind of sort of, because I would think that if I'm logging into the portal, then only myself and any administrators over me, such as yourself, I mean, anybody from Georgia Tech and OSHA is the only people who can get in there. Any outside people couldn't get in, but I understand. I got it.
Yep.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if the client doesn't pay for the cards, the trainer is obligated to pay for the cards, correct? Okay,
The only way they're gonna get processed.
okay, thank you.
Payment has to be made for the card in order for the card to be printed.
Got it.
Okay, so again, I will just harp on it again. Setting those expectations up front with whoever is asking you to run that class so that they understand timeliness, that they understand how it's gonna, what that transaction needs to look like. It's and to your students, right? Like if they come to you and say, I've lost it and I need a replacement, what happens in the portal is that you will pay a $25 fee, right? And that is you, the instructor, has to pay that. It doesn't mean that you can't be charging your student for a replacement. Okay. So it's just that there is a replacement fee, and whatever that transfer looks like is on you. I would just say, like, establish that up front with your folks. The only other thing on this slide that I really want to hone in on, I feel like our program is eventually going to be moving towards this practice of not, it would be nice for you to do it, but it's going to be a requirement for you to do it, is to go ahead and just scan and PDF or take a picture of it. I don't care, whatever it needs to be, to put your course, all of your course documentation into the portal. That is an ability that you have now. And we keep talking about how it's a nice feature and that you should be using it. I want to just get yourself in the habit of doing it. At the very bottom of your every course page that you do, right? When you scroll all the way to the bottom, this is what you see. Here's your student copies of your cards. And there's this little set over here that says add files to this report, upload file. Make a PDF of your sign-in sheets, make a PDF of your agenda, or just keep it as a Word document. I don't care, but select it from your computer and upload it. And then it's all in one place. It will make our life and your life so much easier. So if you're not using this feature, go ahead and start using it, because there's your backup right away. Like there's your plan B, right? Something gets washed away in a flood, you leave your place of employment and you don't have those records. At least it's stored in the portal. Okay. So it's a very nice feature. Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Real quick, what are the repercussions if you don't have those documents? What kind of fines are assessed, or is it through you or is it through OSHA?
If record keeping is not, if there's a problem with some of like these items that we're covering today.
Yeah, hypothetically, you lost the roster, you lost the actual schedule of what you trained, you lost copies of the cards, and I get audited. What are the ramifications of that?
Yep. So it is typically okay, give us an explanation of what happened and what's the plan going forward to prevent a reoccurrence, right? We're going to start there, right? This program is not out to get anybody. The goal is to say, okay, so yeah, we messed up. What do we do going forward? So there will be a required action plan, an explanation of what is it that got dropped. Sometimes we'll request, give us your new modified form, right? If your sign-in sheet was always incorrect, tell us how it's correct now and show us a copy of that. The record keeping type of stuff is mostly just like, let's identify it and then help you figure out how to make it correct going forward, and what that plan is. Does that mean that maybe at some point you would be audited again, right? Just so that we can see, did those changes get made and has it been consistent going forward in the correct way? Yes. It's when we start to move into things like fraudulent documentation that we're going to start having a conversation about your ability to continue to be an outreach trainer with us. Okay. But there's not like a monetary fine or things like that. Laurel.
Just to piggyback on the whole audit thing, I probably about 10 years ago, I had a record keeping audit and I will say 10 years and 1 week, my computer crashed. So all the documents that I had online were gone. Like I tried to do a recovery on my computer and everything, and it did not work. I had paper copies, but I had to go to like storage facilities and find everything. So like it was explained, I told them what happened. So they just gave me a little bit more time to get the documents together. And I had told them that I was going to be moving everything over to Dropbox, a cloud. So everybody worked with me when that happened. But
Great, yeah.
I also wanted to say, with the documents on the portal, do those automatically go away after 5 years?
That's a great question. The portal hasn't existed long enough for me to know that. Yvonne is shaking her head no. So it sounds like they're going to stay there for as long as they're there. And I know even if you expire as a trainer, for example, okay, so you miss your 502 and now you're not authorized, you got to go back through and reauthorize and take that class again. Your profile is still going to be there. Okay. And so if you had someone contact you and say, I lost my card and I need a replacement, or you did get pulled for a random audit, even though you're not an active trainer at the moment, all of those records would still be there and you could still access them. Yeah, good. Go ahead, Yvonne.
Yes, Hillary, remember, we can go into the old portal that, is no longer functional for submitting course reports, but we can go into that old portal and we can we can look at course reports from years back. So they don't drop off.
Yep. Yep, they're there. So make use, please, of the portal feature to store your stuff there. All right, let's see what else. There's just a couple of other things I wanted to cover with you, and then the rest of it is just there for your pleasure reading down the road if you want. So a couple other process reminders. I just want to reiterate, because I think you asked a great question, Robert, about like, what are the ramifications? Okay. I just want to, again, remind you all that both when you through your 500 and a 501 or your update class, you signed a statement of compliance, and whether you actually read all that fine print or not, this is what you signed to. And it is saying that I'm certifying that I'm conducting all my classes in accordance with the rules. And I understand it's my responsibility to ensure I meet the requirements of all of the, requirements manual that OSHA puts out. I'm going to maintain my training records as required, and I will provide those records if needed. And that I can be subject to immediate dismissal if there's something that's found wrong, if the information is not true, complete, and correct. Again, this is not out to get you. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of things to remember when it's a transactional thing, like you mentioned, Robert, you're like, oh, I don't know, I don't have that piece of paper anymore. Well, okay, so mistakes happen, and tell us what you're doing going forward, right? It's when it's repeated. It's when I'm looking at a sign-in sheet and I hand it off to someone else to look at it too, and we both say, something doesn't look right here. This looks like maybe somebody forgot to hand around their sign-in sheet. So they just made a copy of it for day 2 and submitted that instead. Okay. Because I'm supposed to have a sign-in sheet for each day 1 and day 2. And so I did it on day 1 and then I forgot to hand it out on day 2. I'm going to take that paper and I'm going to white it out, and I'm going to that date at the top, and I'm going to put in the date 2, and I'm going to make a copy of it and submit it. That's the stuff that I don't want to see you do. Okay. Are we clear? No one needs to be faking documents. Right? Just see this up here. What do I do if I make a mistake? You communicate with your ATO. Okay. You say, I messed up, right? I tell Yvonne many times a day, I messed up. I forgot this. I forgot that. I missed this deadline. I did, right? The goal is to get your cards to your students who completed your class successfully, and we want to help you do that. So if you find yourself in that position of, I did forget something, don't fake it, don't make something up, just communicate with us and we will work it out, okay? I want to reiterate over and over for you, it's always a good thing. I'm glad that I have to teach the 501 regularly, because then I put my eyes on this document regularly and I remember what it is I'm supposed to do for an outreach class. If it's been a while since you read this manual and you're getting tasked with running your first 10 or 30 hour in a while, before you just decide to wing it, or you decide to call Yvonne or me and say, I'm going to run my first class, what should I do? We'll help you, but the first thing I'm going to tell you to do is read that manual, okay? And refresh it for yourself on what it is that you need to put into that class and how many people can be in that class and how long you can teach for the day, okay? That's all your responsibility, and you signed that statement of compliance saying you were going to do that, okay? Yvonne.
Yes, someone did put in the chat, inquired about curriculum. And I think this is your answer, to review the procedures document. Sometimes we have trainers who will develop their course agenda and send it to us for review. And unfortunately, we just don't have the staff. When you take into account 2,000 trainers, we don't have the staff available that can look at agendas like that, but your answer is right there in that procedures document.
Yes, it will list out for you what it is you need to cover and for how long. And if your question goes into then, well, where do I get materials? I've never put together a PowerPoint before on this topic. At the end of this slide deck, I'm not covering it, but in the end of this slide deck are the links to a whole bunch of places that you can pull curriculum resources for your classes, okay? And we post a bunch on our website, and I cover them in our outreach webinars, and OSHA's got some on their page. And as part of this the outreach trainer coaching series that we are doing, that's one of the things we're working on developing for you, is some resources for curriculum development. But when it comes to this is what I have to train on, always start with that requirements and procedures document, okay? The only other thing is just, some portal reminders. And again, we're working on some additional tutorials on here's how you do advanced notice. Here's how you use your advanced notification to build out your course report, okay, that kind of thing. But just to remind everyone about advanced notices, we do require you to put one in, and you'll get a message that says your advanced notice was received. That's it. There's no waiting for us for additional approval. You have told us you're going to run your class where and when, and that's it. There's no additional thing you need from us unless you are wanting to run a class via Zoom or Teams or in some other virtual capacity, okay? That's what it looks like. And then I think this is the final reminder, is just that you probably have seen some communications from us in various ways. The price of student cards is going up on October 1st from $8 to $10 per card. So just if you have not yet seen or heard that, make sure that you are aware that change is coming. And that, again, cards do not get processed or printed or sent to you unless they are paid for. So when you go in and you look at your profile and you're pulling up all your reports, you are looking for icons that are little green S, dollar symbols. And that means that that's been processed and you've paid for your cards and they're going to come to you. If it is not showing that green little symbol, it means you maybe put your card info in, but you never followed all the way through. This happens all the time with people who are paying for stuff on P cards, right? Because maybe there's only one person in your office that's got the P card. So you go and you start putting all of your info in, and then you're like, oh, now it's payment time. I got to go and get this person to come and put the info into the system for me, because unfortunately the portal does not hold credit card info. Okay, you can't, you got to put it in each time. So we'll get people who will pause to go and find their person to put the P card in, and then they forget. And then they think, oh, I put that course report in, it's there, but the cards will never be processed because there was no payment made. Okay. Let's see, come on, last thing, upcoming events. Just a reminder of the remaining 502s and 503s we've got coming up for the remainder of the year. You can always reauthorize with the 500 and 501 if you need to, because these dates don't work for you. There are dates already on there for January and February, I think. But just make sure that you don't miss that date, because there's no exception. And that's what that yellow box is, no grace period. We've got a couple of other great classes coming up that just will take your knowledge beyond 502 and 503 if you want. We've got a managing legal issues. That's one day, and it's going to be via Zoom, September 25th. We've got best practices for safety, health, and environmental trainers. Great course to give you a lot of real practical stuff. And if you're planning on ever sitting for like your CIT, then this would be a good prep course for that. We've got a CHST, the Construction Health and Safety Technician Exam Study Session. If you're looking to take that test and achieve that CHST certification, that class is coming on in October. And the Advanced Safety Management class with Philip, if for those of you who can't get enough of Philip, that's the class that he'll run in October. All of those just get your regular registration through PE. We've got a couple of free seminars that are still coming up, and you can just scan the QR code and that'll take you to the page where you can register for additional, just to attend those free seminar classes. Safe and Sound Week is next week. So just if you need promotional materials or things on that, OSHA's got a bunch on their page for Safe and Sound. And the theme for Safe and Sound this week is mental health. So there's a lot of resources available on workplace stress and fatigue, suicide prevention, things like that. That's sort of the theme for Safe and Sound this week. So again, just a couple of links that you'll be able to just click on once you pull the slides down. And then the slides behind this are all just additional resources for you to use, whether it's training resources and curriculum development or more information on the portal. That is what we've got. Yes, Yvonne.
I just have one other thing to add regarding the agenda. You are required, I'm sorry, not agenda, advance notice. You are required to submit that advance notice. It does not get approved, but if you forget to submit your advance notice, send us an email. We can save that information in your outreach trainer profile.
You got it.
Thank you for
Awesome.
bringing that up. That was important because there are times where there's another trainer scheduled to do the class. For whatever reason, he's not able to show up and they call me. I'm pretty prepared. I didn't have a chance to send in my notice. Is that going to affect on me poorly if I do a class, then submit the documentation? How many times can you get away with that? Because that seems to happen quite a few times.
You want to do just the very best you can. And even if it's a quick email that just says, hey, I'm going to have to do this one. The thing that I want to caution is, and we've run into this, and this people get blocked and then they have problems, is because they forget to put in the advance notice. Then they do their class and they go to enter the information in and go, oh, I didn't put my advance notice in. Let me do that now. And the system will not let you because those dates are now already passed. Okay. So if you don't put in your advance notice, because for whatever reason it happens, you're going to just start with your course report, because now you're reporting that you did the course, right? You're not telling us that you're going to do the course. It's already happened. And now you're proceeding forward. So we'll get people who will call and be like, a system won't let me put something in. And it's like, well, you don't put in an advance notice once it's already happened. You just go straight to your course report. Okay. It is something that happens, Robert. And if it's habitual, you know, and there's never an advance notice for you, it's possible, you know, anybody, right? It's, you know, that is something that we require and we're looking for. And so does it mean that maybe a likelihood for a records audit goes up? It's possible. But again, the records audits are not there. They're really not there as a gotcha. They're there to try to make sure that you are keeping your documents the way you're supposed to, so that everything flows as it is supposed to. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for everything you do.
You're welcome. Great questions, everybody, and participation. I really appreciate your time today. And yeah, well, I'll stop recording, but if there's, I can stay on for a few more minutes if there's additional questions, but we will PDF all these slides and put them on the website with the Zoom recording. And then you can watch it again or pull down the slides and reference the information that's there as needed. Okay. Very good. Thanks for all you do, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You're so welcome.
You.
Take care.
Hi, Tony. Here, let me just push stop on recording.
Hey, Hillary, I did